Hello, hello. Happy Monday. I hope everybody had an awesome weekend. Today is Q&A Monday with Debbie, and we're going to be working on some upper body toning today. And depending on what type of range of motion you have, upper body can be somewhat challenging. There's lots you can do with your vibration plate from a seated perspective, but today we are going to spend a little bit more time on the ground. So for those of you that do have range of motion to get down on the ground, I invite you to enjoy me today. For those of you that do not have the ability to get down on the ground, or more so get up, which is always the bigger challenge of the equation, please follow along, and hopefully this might be something to aspire to or work towards. There are other videos more related to how, if you're only able to use your machine seated or in a standing position, there's still certainly lots of ways that you can work on your arms. But variety is the spice of life. So today we're going to be working on some direct applications on the floor. And many of these can be just as effective as a wellness tool as they can be for toning and getting exercise benefits as well. So I want you to sort of pay attention today. I'm sure none of this is completely new to those of you that have done floor-based exercises in the past. If you are joining me today and you can see and hear me, please let me know if somebody wants to just make a comment. I would really appreciate that. I've had a number of you in my groups today also mention it's Prime Week, it's Prime Day. What is it? Life Pro has two ways to save for Prime Day, which starts tomorrow, and Prime Week. For so many of you would have gotten an email today about Prime Week. Life Pro on site is having all kinds of different deals between the 10th and the 16th in the US. And Amazon is having their Prime Day on the 11th and the 12th. So if you're overseas, that'll be starting sooner. What I have done, because I've just been answering link messages all morning, I'm going to just drop in the chat all the links, depending on where you want to go to, as far as if you want to shop direct, if you're looking on Amazon. And I absolutely encourage you to compare between the two, because sometimes it's not a matter of, it's a better price here or there because Life Pro wants it to be. It depends on the retail outlet and where it's being sold through. So make sure if you've got a particular product in mind. I had about 5 or 6 questions this morning about the waiver specifically, because that's a popular brand or a popular model I use in a lot of my sessions. I want to make sure everyone knows where to, get the best deals. So there's a number of links in the one comment that I just posted, if anybody wants to take a closer look at where the deals are this week. So for those of you that are joining me for the sessions, again, today is up about upper body, and upper body toning means different things to different people. Toning to some of you might mean, I want to get some more shape and some definition. Others might, I want to tighten things up. The skin tone is, maybe soft and the definition is not showing. Or perhaps you want to lose mass. Perhaps you want to gain mass. So depending on what you want to do with your arms, upper body toning sometimes means different things. But today what we're going to be focusing on is, upper body exercises are not the best bang for your buck as far as weight loss. Should they be part of a total body exercise regime if that's your overall goal? Yes. But upper body toning positions we're going to be doing today are more specifically, you're kind of where you want to be, but you've lost some shape, or you're dealing with some restrictions as far as maybe range of motion issues. A lot of the exercises we're going to be doing today are kind of dual purpose. So they're going to exercise those target groups of muscles that we're trying to, I should have said from the waist up. We're not going to focus on core today. That's another whole session in itself. But I want to talk about the arms, the shoulders, the neck, the parts that stick out over the top of your bra, the back of the bra, all the guys out the shirt, the collar, things like that. And if you have not done push-ups regularly in the past, I want to always encourage you to start conservatively. So just like when you're standing, we're going to get over to the machine, and I'm going to start some demo action here. I just want to check my volume. I haven't had anyone tell me they can or cannot see me. So if someone is having problems here, can you hear me? Can you see me? I see that 8 of you are there. I just want to make sure you guys are hearing me before I get out of what my old eyes can or cannot see. So if you're having any issues on me coming through, please someone make a comment. Otherwise, I'm going to assume you're all hearing me easily. I have 2 pieces of equipment I'm working with today, as I did in last week's session. Last week was about lower body toning tips. We did some massage as well. This week we're focusing, as I said, just on upper body. So I'm working with my Rumblex Plus model. If I were to recommend a Rumblex, there's 2 faves. I prefer working with a flat plate surface. I work with a lot of medical issues, and I'm a creature of habit, just like anybody else. So I prefer working with a flat surface. So my 2 Rumblex recommendations are the Plus and the Max, if you're looking for something with a little bit more weight capacity. I also have with me the AeroFlex Step today. One of the things when you're starting with upper body exercises, if you are just working on that range of motion and you've gotten down to the ground, sometimes working with a tool like this to give you a little more surface, the height of the machine, just makes it a little bit more easy to maneuver on the ground. I said in last week's session, it's always easier to get down this far than that far. So it's giving you about 6 inches, the same height as your machine, whether it's just a starting point to get down on the ground. Today, what I wanted to show you for upper body toning, if you've never used your machine directly with your hands on the plate, one way that you can start is without getting a whole lot of head vibration, which isn't harmful, it's just something that takes getting used to, is sit on something like this, or you could, just sit on the ground in front of your machine and just get used to how it kind of feels. Part of upper body toning is getting circulation and lymphatic movement into the skin surface. A lot of my toning as I've gotten older is the skin, perhaps the definition, the plumpness in the muscles. But for skin toning, just getting some good circulation and some good lymph moving is a great way to start using your platform to not only make your upper body exercises more effective, but this is a great way if you are doing things at the gym or you've got other disciplines, maybe you do weights. This is a great way to warm up and recover, to just take advantage of that circulation and that lymph movement that it's going to give you as an advantage. So right here, depending on, you can play all day long if you're leaning into it a bit more, if your elbows are out a bit more, if they're tucked in. Experiment with the angles of your hands, your arms, and you're going to feel it in different areas. And just by feeling, and paying attention to where you're feeling the stimulation from the plate, you're going to start maybe targeting those areas that you're trying to target. So for me, the big one I want to show you today is the tricep. Many of you know I was a bridesmaid this weekend, and although I was very thin, I almost felt I was too thin and I didn't have enough muscle tone. My skin, certainly in the back wing region, could have been a little more toned. So I am currently focusing on probably the most popular region for women, that back of the arm up into the top of the bra strap. And a good way to do that is simply playing with your angles. Draw those elbows in towards the ribs. So tip number 1, regardless of what upper body exercise you are trying, and today push-up variations is what we're playing with, you're going to learn how to direct it to the area not only that you want to maybe target for toning, but perhaps it's for strength or tension. Maybe you just need some relaxation. You're on a computer all day and you suffer with carpal tunnel. So you're getting multiple benefits just by doing these exercises in the surface of the plate. But to start with the targeting of the toning and the muscles, I want you to just start understanding how to play with the angles of your arms and your hands to target specific areas. The next variation I want to get into is going to incorporate more of your body weight into the equation. So when we add mass to our frame, when we're on the machine, it increases our mass, our body weight. It forces the muscles to work harder. It's a good way to fatigue faster. If you're like me and you want to have a little bit larger muscles and a little bit more definition, I need to add mass. And the first way that you can add mass is your own body weight. So if you're not doing exercises that look like this right now, a plate is a perfect way to get started. It's really going to reduce the amount of time that you need to spend exercising. So if you're dealing with inflammation, chronic issues, but you want to tone, it doesn't mean that you need to aggravate your joints and go to the gym to get some benefits. So again, I'm going to target those triceps. I'm going to tuck my elbows up against my ribs, and you can see it moving, okay? If I pull my fingertips and point them more towards each other, what happens in an upper body position, your heel is the point of contact. So if your hands are like this, they're moving more. If your hands are like this, where the heel of the hand is closer together, that's how you drive the intensity or how strong the movement of the plate feels. And I always like to use a mid speed with a closer hand position, same as standing. A lot of people talk about starting slow. It's not just a speed thing. The distance between your hands or your feet when you're physically on the plate also determines the strength of the movement. So another variation I want to show you that's going to help with more the upper arms and the shoulders is taking that same mass that we're applying here, where part of our body, this is going to be more mass. So if you are able and you're doing these types of exercises now, this is going to be harder because you weigh more going into the plate. My favorite way to target the shoulders and the upper arms is something that's called, let's say, a shoulder press. So all we're going to do with this one is shift our own body weight. We're not adding weight in a different manner to target different muscles. Now, depending on how tall you are, what you want to do is you want to get your shoulders in line with your hands, but you want your bum higher than your shoulders. So you look something like this. If you're not able to do this, you might need to straighten your legs out more, bend them a bit if you don't have flexibility. Relax the head, don't fight it. Just hold a good position. And I can feel the intensity building in the shoulders, the back of my shoulders, the neck. This is what's supporting my weight. So these are the muscles that are working the hardest. Hold a good position. And if you need to with this one, make sure that you've got good breathing. It's hard for me to talk when I'm doing that one, just like core exercises. You want to make sure your breathing is nice and fluid, and then just hold to fatigue on that one. And you're going to feel, yes, those muscles have been exercised, but I love doing that one just to relieve tension in the neck and the shoulders. Sometimes when you're using muscles in a repetitive nature throughout the course of your day, whether it's a job lifting or typing or whatever's caused the stress, I know it might seem crazy wanting to use a machine for those areas, but we are talking about toning today. So in order to change your body, you're going to need to do different things than what it's already used to. If you're working in a job and you're doing the same movements all day, nothing's saying you're not active and you're not engaging those muscles, but your body's used to it. It's become conditioned to what you require it to do every day. So you do still need to do something in complement to that to challenge them and mix it up. So if you are in a very laborsome job, you're still having issues toning, it's not because you're not lifting weights or you're not exercising all day. It's because your body's just become accustomed to what you're doing. So I think you'll find a couple of these exercises are not only going to help pick up the toning in the upper arms and the neck and the shoulder, but it's also going to relieve a lot of the tension that you may be carrying as a work thing. Another variation I want to show you with this one, and any of these that I'm doing, you can do them on the ground, you can do them on the step. It really depends on your range of motion, your knees, different things like that. If you have bad knees, you may need to use your yoga mat or something like that if you're on a hard surface, or even a piece on the top of your step. For this next one, I want to show you how to get a little bit of action into the neck, the shoulders. A lot of people ask me, Debbie, how do I tone this here? I'm told that, opening our mouth and closing our mouth is a good way to do that. But many of you do. I talk a lot and it's not perfectly toned at my age. So if you are doing face exercises, there's a bazillion on the internet, or if you've got a neck exercising tool, you can combine with the stimulus of the vibration plate to get more results. So I'm going to give you an example of what that might look like. I would recommend, we're going to go into the forearms now. I'm not a big fan of doing forearm planks on the machine, but this is more wellness. But it is hard on the elbows and the forearms. So elbows determine the amount of movement. If you're really wide, you're going to be shaking a whole lot. Bring the elbows closer to the center. Get the shoulders above the elbows versus being back or forward. And you'll feel the movement in the shoulders, the neck. If you do have face exercises, this is where you may want to add them at the same time. You're just boosting more circulation and lymph to that area. Okay, perhaps lift. If you're finding it's too much head vibration or it's too shaky, bring the elbows closer to the center. You are always in control. The really slow speeds or slow presets on these type of exercises are really wobbly and really choppy. And I think you'll find with closer placement of your hands or elbows and a faster speed, it's going to be much more smoother, much more tonic, especially when we're working with smaller body parts than if we're working the legs and the glutes and so forth. Another one I want to show you, this is a good way to get a little bit into the upper back, not only from a toning perspective. The big message today is adding your plate to your upper body exercises is going to help tone the skin surface. It's when you want to get into more definition or strength that I suggest you play with some of these variations. So this one, I'm just warning everyone now, there's been a thunderstorm watch. We had a tornado here 2 weeks ago, and I'm just looking out my window. It's looking pretty scary. So if for any reason I happen to lose power, I'm not doing this for drama. It's just because I've got some pretty severe weather moving through the area as we speak. So this one might be better if I show you from this angle a bit. This one is probably not something everyone will be able to do right off the bat, and you may want to start seated in a chair if your range of motion is a little bit challenging. I want you to take your arms, put them through your legs, and hook them onto your ankles so you're hanging on for dear life, if that makes sense. And I want you to visualize that you are like Pinocchio, you're a puppet, and there's strings attached to the high part of your back that are going to pull you up to the ceiling. So what you're doing is you're taking your upper body and you're pushing it this direction while you're hanging on to your ankles. And it's the most amazing stretch. But by adding the plate, you're getting that much more stimulation, that much more blood flow and lymph as well. So we're just going to push, hold for 2, 3, and relax. Okay, and again, this isn't something everyone can do. If you need to, start like this. Maybe you're hanging on to the inside of your pants, and just push against the arms. But this is something I'd like you to work towards. It's not only going to help your range of motion and the skin tone, but it's kind of, one of those moves that I like to do that secretly tricks you into also building better range of motion and flexibility. So it's kind of a lot of different benefits with these types of exercises, simply because you're adding the plate. So then again, I like to do about 3 to 5 reps, holding for 3 to 5 seconds each. Make sure you're breathing, relax, okay? The reason I wanted to do that one is the last upper body exercise I wanted to show you before we get into some massage positions is the tricep dip, because inevitably, whenever I do an upper body position, the tricep dip fans come out of the woodwork, because I say I'm not a big fan of doing tricep dips on a vibration machine, simply because more people do not do tricep dips properly now or regularly, let alone in an environment that makes them more challenging. A vibration plate will make your individual exercise positions and your stretches more effective, but it is really important, especially for my ladies just beginning upper body, or if it's just not something you do regularly. The better your technique, the more likely you're going to get the results you're looking for and have a more positive experience. So on this one, I'm going to move forward to the step. You can sit on the floor, but I really want to focus on good positioning here. What you're going to do is you're going to take the palm of your hand and you're going to hook it on the edge of the plate behind you, okay? Again, wider is more movement, closer is less movement. So try and get the hands as close as your range allows. And I want you to take those elbows, turn them backwards, like somebody's pulling your elbows together, okay? And then I want you to just sort of feel, where do you feel that? A really key thing with a tricep dip is getting your bum close to the machine. If you're too far away from it, you're going to stress and strain that shoulder possibly a little bit. So make sure your bum is really literally just within the curve of the front of your machine. And I want you to just keep your feet conservatively close and just try lifting your bum up off the ground. And you'll feel a big difference in your mass when you lift up off the step. If you're doing tricep dips now, and this seems like way, way, way too easy, get rid of the step. Make it from a more challenging starting point. Okay, I don't want to see any sagging shoulders. Keep a nice straight line across the collarbone and the shoulders. Palms, elbows back, lift. And if you're doing reps, and this is still to go ahead, if you're used to doing reps, if you're used to coming all the way out, do it that way. Again, make sure that your bum is right up against the curve of the machine. The further away you are, the more it's going to strain and pull on your shoulders, especially if you're having issues there already. This one, if you've never done this before, you don't need to make it the hardest tricep dip that you've ever done. Start gradually, get into good technique, and add more body weight as you feel comfortable and stable. So this is less body weight. This is more body weight. Your body is larger and gravity has more of a surface in which to push down upon. Okay? If you're finding that you do these types of exercises regularly and you just want to use your plate to pick it up, these are all going to be tightening and toning and adding definition to those areas. But if you don't find that you're fatiguing within 30 seconds to a minute, you may want to add some mass. You may want to add some dynamic movement. Experiment with what your level of difficulty is, because it's going to vary for everybody what you're able to tolerate. So a couple last things I want to have you guys that have a little bit better range of motion to have some potential fun with. It's a common question I get asked is, can I lay certain upper body parts on the machine? There has never been record of anyone harming themselves massaging on a vibration machine. Sometimes you got to experiment, and there's better ways to line yourself up on the machine than other ways. What I will caution is massage is the laziest, most passive way that you can use the machine, and it's also most commonly the number one way that you'll overuse your machine. So if you're dealing with a lot of chronic issues, please follow my advice, and less is more. I would prefer to see you doing multiple shorter sessions throughout the course of a day versus one big long shake or something of that nature. So you can lay body parts directly on the machine, but you might need to get a little creative if depending on the floor surface, depending on what your range of motion is like. So the first way that I like to get the back of the arms is the same way that I might line my calves or something else up against the machine. I lay down directly beside the machine. I like to do this on a much faster speed. If you have a pulsation model, that's another movement style that's quite nice for massage. Tends to make you feel a little itchier than oscillating, but experiment and mix it up for success. So lay that bad arm right on the machine, and how much action you get, excuse me, is really based on your own tolerance. If you want to get sort of the back of the arm and the shoulder on the machine to just target that area specifically, I'm not very far into the plate. I'm kind of lining my arm up just off center. It's really not harmful. You don't feel it on, it isn't harmful. It's not really shaky on the head. You just need to be able to hold yourself up with your other arm to be able to get low enough and recover to get yourself back up. Another way that you can massage the plate is to get this area, the front of the shoulder and the bicep, front of the arm. Really depends on your range of motion. I'm going to bring this out a little bit more. And for this one, I'm on a hard floor, so I'm just going to grab a blanket to lay down on. But I lay down in front of the machine, and I hook my shoulder. See how my shoulder's kind of just, I've got the mat in there, and I kind of get that shoulder. This is going to work not not only for toning, but if you've got like frozen shoulder or chronic issues in there, I love laying my arm over the machine. So again, I'm just barely off center. Kind of get used to how this feels. If you want a bit more of a stretch, turn this way. You can turn that way. You can lift up and turn if you want a little bit more intense into the shoulder. At the end of the day, it is just a big vibrator. So you're only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. This one here, if you wanted to get a little bit more mass for my therapists out there, those are that are doing direct massage applications. Maybe you're up here working on my shoulder while the machine is adding some stimulation and some lymph movement to the equation. So this is just another example of how you can target those areas. A lot of women will ask me, can I lay my breasts on the machine? And I wanted to address that question today. Generally speaking, if you were to ask anyone that knows anything about vibration machines, they'd say, no, absolutely not. You don't want to put your hoo-haws on the machine. But it's just one of those sensitive topics that nobody's really going to do research on. When you jog, they bounce. When you do floor-based exercises, they get squished. When you go for a mammogram, they get squished. I wouldn't recommend solely using your vibration machine to massage these areas, but some of you are massaging these areas. I can only make suggestions. And you're going to do what you want at the end of the day once you've got a level of comfort with these machines. But I can say in my 16 years of doing all kinds of different things on these machines, that includes my clients and their experimentation. I've had many clients lay their chest and their tummy on the machine directly. It does require some range of motion and some tolerance. Some of my clients that would do that for toning wouldn't have any more problems than those that are using it for COPD or those types of gastric intestinal issues. So sometimes when you're looking for relief and the machine has offered you help in so many other ways, it's natural to kind of experiment and see what might work or might not work for you. So if this is something that you're going to try, I don't want to encourage it, but I do want you to experiment responsibly and use common sense. So if you're going to lay your chest or your tummy on the machine, please don't do it for 10, 15 minutes. And if it feels terrible, you're dealing with a whole bunch of, recent spine injuries, I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it really boils down to your tolerance. There's no evidence any of this has ever harmed anyone. And you're moving less than if you're walking across the floor. So for this one, if you are going to experiment with it, I recommend getting the hip bones on the machine. I recommend using a mat. My tummy, my girls are on it, and I'm holding my upper body up with my forearms. And I'm just experimenting with how this feels. And I'm feeling it all the way down to my glutes for that matter. Keep in mind, this is just skin tone and relaxation. This isn't going to give you a six-pack. You've still got to do that type of work. And again, I'm not suggesting everyone lay their stomach across the machine, but if it's something that you're experimenting with now and you're going to be doing it anyways, use common sense. Same goes for the back, which is the other question I get a lot of personal messages on versus direct posts. So I do have a lot of clients with respiratory and COPD issues long before current times came along. And I have a lot of women with back fat that just figured it did so much for everywhere else in their body. Why wouldn't they experiment? So if you're going to do your back and you don't have the ability or you don't like how it feels holding up your neck, this is a great little way to add your step to the equation. Okay. So get from the low back, kind of up to the shoulder blades on, and then I just use the step to hold my head on. I don't recommend putting your head directly on the machine, but this feels great. I have had some therapists work with my clients that have experience and know their clients. Always speak to your doctor with any new therapy. I'm simply providing information because I have a little bit more experience than most. But this one, you can feel if you have like tension in the spine, the shoulder blades, this is just a really easy way to target those muscles if range allows. You could even lay your arms just directly on the side, see if that feels comfortable, maybe up on the chest. Again, experiment, do these at a mid Speed range, the really slow ones can be quite choppy, not as comfortable. You are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. For me personally, I prefer to do my upper body 2 to 3 times a week. Is for those of you looking at how often, how long. My upper body is a little bit more challenging. Everything I did today was modified and on my knees, but I do prefer when I am doing my upper body, I tend to do my core at the same time. So in today's session, we were focusing more on modified and how you get started on this. But for those of you that are doing push-ups and planks regularly now, you're going to get the same benefit. As I said, you're just adding more mass to the equation. You're going to not only burn more calories, but you're going to build that definition, the plumpness and the tone in the muscles that you're looking for much quicker. So experiment, but consistency is the key. Doing this regularly and pushing yourself to fatigue quick is, as I've gotten older, it's not necessarily about going 100 miles an hour, especially if you've got joint pain, inflammation. As long as you can get those muscle groups to a level of fatigue quickly, that's what's going to make those important changes that you're looking for. So, pushing yourself to fatigue quicker in an environment that makes it more challenging and involves more muscle groups is a great way to increase results on the muscles while decreasing time and effort on the joints. So again, just some tips for you today on the upper body side. I could talk upper body all day long. Again, just a reminder, a vibration machine is simply an environment. You are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. So I'm going to, hang on, I need to get one light here. I'm feeling somewhat blinded. And I want to see who might have some questions for me. I'm not sure if that was familiar to everyone, but if you're doing upper body now, sometimes, we get stuck in a groove, or, maybe we're just looking for, something different. If you're finding with the exercises on your plate that you're getting, it's 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you could do it all day long. Sometimes it's a matter of just changing up the settings that you're doing, perhaps trying a variation on an exercise. I typically recommend if you're diligent and consistent with your routine, your fitness stuff, mix it up for, every week, every other week, whether it's a different setting, different position of the hands or the feet, just to keep the body a little bit confused. Okay. So, just some simple ideas. Again, you're only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. So I want to see if anybody's got any questions here. I'm just going to scroll down. Hello, Facebook user. How much weight can that platform hold? This one that I'm holding today, using today, the Rumblex Plus, will accommodate 330. Weight capacity is just a guideline. I do have clients that have exceeded that, just simply due to budget. Even with some of the smaller plates, there are ways to start seated with one foot on the machine, perhaps the other one on a step. So there's ways we can modify to work with a weight capacity. If you know that you want something with higher weight capacity, perhaps you're doing athletic performance, you want to be adding mass, 50 to 100 pounds. If that's the angle you're thinking, I recommend the Rumblex Max model. Take a look through the Life Pro Direct link that I've provided and see. It will accommodate up to 500 pounds. So whatever your mass and whatever you want to add. I do have some competitive athletes that certainly take advantage of those type of tools to make that workout as real time and as functional to the training style that you're trying to accomplish. Any other questions? I must have given all the wisdom that you needed today. Don't forget that it is Prime Week with Life Pro Direct on their site. It is also Prime Day, the 11th and the 12th. So if you've been holding off waiting for Prime Week, I know I've got a ton of questions over the weekend and today. Now is kind of the time. Thanks, Debbie. Angie Moore. So the Rumblex Max for it'll accommodate up to 500 pounds, Angie. So especially if you got a big guy in the house and he likes to add, 50 to 100 pounds to his workout, there are ways that you can do that with your plate, but, graduate first. You don't buy it just to add 200 pounds. If I'm doing my job and I'm showing you how to do the moves, it should be challenging. Debbie, can you suggest other exercises for triceps in addition to the tricep dips for lippy ladies? Cynthia, I always like adding to my standing positions, specifically to my lipedema and my lymphedema group, because I'm always trying to get the total body lymph thing going. I like simply adding, whether you're adding weights or not, just engaging those muscles in your standing positions, perhaps some bent over rows or some extensions while you're standing. It doesn't need to be challenging. Sometimes the simpler you make it, the more consistently that you'll be able to adhere to it and stick with the program, if that makes sense. I hope that helps. No other questions, perhaps. Believe it or not, we now have a tornado warning. So I might actually take advantage and end early today. Shop Prime Week sale. For those of you watching the recorded basis of this, or the recorded version of this, if you did have questions, or maybe I talked you to death and your brain is just spinning and you think of something after the fact, always tag me at Debby with a Y, and I'll get back to you. Sometimes if there's a lot of questions or a lot of activity, we may not always see the questions. If you don't tag me specifically, it gets lost in the comments. So have a great rest of your week. Don't work too hard, and I will see you at the same time, 7 p.m. Eastern next week. Have a great week.